Welcome to the nutrition chapter on weight and body composition. Bring up the slides and we'll get going. So we will describe various components that make up the body's composition, describe how body comp and weight are measured and how the results should be interpreted, how each relates. We'll explain errors in different measurements, compare and contrast what the measurements mean and how we can use them. Understand how relative need for size, strength, and speed in sports is reflected in the body composition of elite athletes. We'll look at target body weights and minimum body weight, outline basic principles associated with gaining lean body mass and or losing body fat, most appropriate times during the yearly training cycle when trying to change up your body would best be used, define weight cycling, explain the effects it may have on performance and health, legality, ethics, purity, safety, and effectiveness of muscle building supplements and weight loss supplements. All right, so your weight and body composition can help you perform better in many sports. Some sports it may not play as big of a role, but other sports it does. All right, you know, if you got two guys going to run at each other in football, you know, one guy's running with the ball, the other guy's going to tackle. You know, the one that maybe has the most muscle size yet is also the fastest is going to win that battle, right? So if you can have, you know, both more size, so you're bigger, you're stronger, and you're faster, that's really what you'd like to have, right? And sometimes, you know, the way to perform, and again, each athlete's going to be different. Some athletes got to be lighter to be faster. Some athletes can be big and be fast. And so again, it's going to change from athlete to athlete and from sport to sport on what's going to be best for them, right? We don't want to train, you know, we don't want offensive linemen to have the body of a soccer player, right? Because offensive linemen need extra size and extra girth for the job that they have. They're not constantly running like you do in soccer. Or, you know, again, you know, a swimmer is not going to have the same body type as an offensive lineman. Or a swimmer's not going to have the same body type as a basketball player or something of those nature because of what they do and what they need, right? Again, appearance is probably, you know, if you're outside of sports, probably the most, you know, the most reason people are going to come see personal trainers and nutritionists is because of appearance, right? Most people want to look better, right? So again, we'll talk about how that applies, and again, how sometimes appearance and performance aren't always going to match up, right? You may want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger back when he was Mr. Olympia, but you may be a basketball player, and those two things may not work well for performance reasons, okay? And also for health. There's a point at which, you know, your body comps at a certain level, your fitness is at a certain level, so your health is optimal. But you can get your body comp too low, you can get your body comp too high, and those things can have detrimental effects when it comes to your health. Again, it plays a large role in some sports and a lesser role in other sports. So, you know, if you look at golf, you know, golf is a good example of there's many golfers that take really good care of their body. You know, maybe their game has improved with that. There's other golfers that really don't do anything besides golf. They've got higher body composition, more body fat, and still perform really well on the golf course. Same thing in baseball. There, you know, you've got some pitchers that can throw 90-something plus miles an hour, super effective pitchers, and their body composition is, you know, is really high in the body fat percentage, right? And you got other pitchers who are in really great shape, and again, their pitching stats might be similar. Sometimes those that are in worse physical shape may have actual better performance. So again, different sports, you know, it may or may not play a big role. And then again, what we normally term as being, you know, what most people think is fit is like you see a muscular guy or muscular girl. with very little body fat percentage doesn't always bode well for every position in sports. So again, you look at most shot putters, they just worry about strength. So again, it's not really, they may lose some of their strength trying to get their body fat percentage down to a certain extent. So again, for performance wise, if they're always just focusing on strength and not worrying about the body fat percentage and making sure they get all their energy, they may do well. And that's in both guys and girls. We see that with power lifters. We see that with offensive linemen. Again, if an offensive lineman can move fast enough, but can also weigh 300 pounds and also have the strength to push off defenders and block defenders, that's the best role right there. Again, if they get too light, so if they lose some of that excess body fat, they, one, may lose some of their strength, but even if they keep that, because they're lighter, the defender can move them a bit more easier too. So there's reasons to have some excess body fat for some athletes, where others, the lower they can get, it'll help the performance, right? And again, the muscle mass in different sports plays different roles as well. Okay? Again, all measurements are estimates. Some are much better than others. High power to weight ratio is beneficial in many sports, and changes to body composition should be part of an individualized plan. So power to weight, again, this is where, like you may hear somebody say pound for pound, they can do this, okay? And again, individualized plans, how people lose weight. Again, we all have different diets. Even if many athletes have some same training plans, because they're, at their position, they all train together and do things like that. What those athletes like to eat, don't like to eat, how they psychologically interpret how foods make them feel and things like that is all going to be different. So, you may tell one athlete like, hey, cut back on the cookies. And they're like, yeah, I don't really, it's not really a big deal for me to cut back on them. Where another athlete, that's like just normal part of like, man, I can't cut back on like I've got to, I can maybe cut back on the number of cookies I eat, but there's just some at the end of the day, I've got to have something sweet and just calms me or whatever it is. They need that. Okay. So for them, it may be something more, from of a psychological necessity, where somebody else is like, yeah, no big deal. Okay. Some foods remind them of growing up at home or whatever else it is. And so again, everything needs to be individualized. So body mass. So mass versus weight. So again, your weight is going to change based on, again, our weight can change based on, if you're here on Earth or on the moon because of gravity, your mass is always the same. Okay? So your weight is affected by gravity when mass is not. Your mass will always be the same. All right. Essential body fat is about 3% in males, about 12% in females. That doesn't mean that that's the line of like, oh yeah, as a guy you need to be down to 3%. No, that's where you're bordering on. You may start to have some health issues at 3%. Females may start to have some health issues at 12, but that seems to be around the cutoff point. So what we'd like to see with male and female athletes is we'd like to see them north of that border, just not way north of that border. Okay. And again, sex-specific hormonal reproductive functions that can be affected negatively, somewhere around 9%. Right? So again, getting down to 3% or down to 12% in females is not ideal, although it's not always the goal of athletes that are down there. Sometimes it's just, they're trying to eat, but the amount of training and everything else they do. And sometimes they may actually perform a bit better when they're, say, a female at 11%, or say a male that's like, down around 2%. Now, again, in all honesty, none of us are really that low. That's just using the common methods we use. Again, we'll talk about different methods, but most folks, if they get the most accurate method, which would be DEXA scanning, you're not going to find athletes that are actually that low. But when we use calipers, bioelectrical impedance, BOD-POD, things like that, we may actually see numbers like that, but it's not near as accurate. Okay. Body comp and weight. are important in many sports, and here's some right here. So gymnastics, again, carrying around a lot of extra weight in gymnastics may impair, not only, being able to do some of the gravity-defying movements that gymnasts do, but it may impair the flexibility needed to perform certain maneuvers. Again, you can look at the figure skater on the left-hand side and the amount of flexibility that she has in performing that. Wrestlers in the middle, they've got to compete within certain weight ranges. And so they have to be at that weight to compete at that weight. Again, some athletes, now again, we've seen this probably more, I think, in recent years, in tennis. So they're picking on some tennis. Again, you see the same athlete, playing tennis on the left, and you can see her on the right. And I believe this is Maria Sharapova. It's showing, that she's also, she's not only a tennis player, but also models and is well known for her looks and things like that. So again, it can be mutually beneficial for some athletes to not only, have their body built a certain way so that they can perform well, but it also helps in other endeavors, as they create a brand around themselves and try to make money in other ways as well. And we've seen this with many athletes. There's many athletes that have become models, or they get into acting and things like that because people find them to be they find them to be attractive, or some of them are just funny. So you get some of them that have worked on other careers based on their personalities as well. But we're not talking about a personality chapter, so that's what we're talking about. So we store fat in either our subcutaneous fat, which is usually, that's what you can see. So when you take off your shirt and you're looking, hey, where's my abs? They're hidden somewhere under all of the fat. That would be your sub-Q. Visceral fat is in between your organs. And again, this one is actually the Again, genetics will play some part in do you store more sub-Q versus visceral or vice versa. So again, common gender distributions, and again, you may not fall under one of these. So males tend to be what we call android shape or apple shape, right? So when you talk about, like people that have like the beer belly or whatever, this is usually the apple shape. Okay? Females can put it on their hips, thighs, and buttocks more in general than males, and we call this gynoid shape or pear-shaped. Okay. Now again, you will see males that have gynoid-shaped bodies as they put on excess fat. You will see females that will put on fat like an apple shape as well. So again, it's not mutually exclusive to either gender, but when you're playing the odds, yes, more males tend to be more apple-shaped versus where females can be more pear-shaped. So android versus gynoid. Okay. And gender is not only the influence in how you put weight on, right? So again, this is showing two different folks at the beach and how they store their fat in different sites. So fat-free mass. Muscle, bone, fluid, and organs all make up your fat-free mass. And again, can be difficult to measure. Again, we try to measure lean body mass versus fat mass. So lean body mass would be your so again, this is taken into consideration kind of where you should be. Again, it's easier to measure than fat-free mass, and muscle is one component of the lean body mass. Okay. Ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. Now again, this is one of those things that, yes, people will have some tendency to lean towards one of these. But you can also have a major influence on these as well. There's and you'll see this. There's many of you have probably seen the picture that goes around of Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale they do one of, and Jared Leto both. as they prep for different roles as actors. There's one where Christian Bale, super skinny in some movie. I don't know what the movie is. He plays like a drug addict or something like that. And I mean, he's just skin and bone, so his body looks very ectomorphic, right? You know, and he looks like he has a slight build and difficulty gaining weight. In Batman, he's a mesomorph, so he's more muscular with little excess body fat, and it looks like, you know, like he could gain weight easier. And then he's another movie he plays. They've got him made up, and he's got his, you know, kind of balding. I think he's supposed to look older or something. And he's got a lot of excess body weight, looks stocky, and again, he's got an endomorphic body type. So again, you can influence that, but at the same time, you know, like some, you know, to an extent, your genetics will also play into that. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's not like that if you're born an ectomorph, you're always going to be skinny, right? You can pack on muscle mass. You can out eat your body type and also put on a lot of excess body fat as well, you know, and vice versa. You know, maybe you are shorter in stature and a little bit wider, so you have a, you know, a tendency to look stocky. But again, depending on how you work out, your diet and everything else, you can look more mesomorph, or even, you know, if you're really into endurance type of things, you might tend to even move towards an ectomorphic state. But again, these things play into the importance of what these play into sometimes is as a client, you know, if the client comes and talks to you and says, hey, I want to look like this actress or this actor or this athlete. You know, sometimes some of the extra curves and things that people have, especially that's where it's even a little bit harder, is if you have somebody that's curvy that wants to look like a, you know, say somebody that's got like a very slim pencil-like shape, it may be almost impossible for them to have exactly that body type, or vice versa. Somebody that doesn't have a lot of curvature to their body, to add that to their body is going to be almost impossible. Now again, there's other things outside of what we do. I mean, folks will get plastic surgery in different areas and things like that, but that's not really our area of expertise, and it's not something that I'm going to recommend to a client if I'm talking to you about those. So again, this is what an ectomorphic, mesomorphic, and endomorphic. Again, in all honesty, depending on the training, like if you look at the guy in the upper left, the ectomorphic, you know, again, he's got musculature. If looks like he's probably a distance runner because he's got distance running shorts on. If we change his training regimen, he will thicken up. Again, the mesomorph guy right there could go in either direction, right? So if he quit training and just ate a lot, go look a little bit more like the endomorphic guy. Again, if he started training for triathlons, spent less time in the gym, things like that, he would probably lose some of that muscle mass as well. Okay. So BMI is a relationship of your weight to your height, and we use it to establish healthy weight ranges. Again, this assessment tool we use for mostly general population. It's definitely not appropriate to use with pregnant females because, again, it's just weight, height to weight. So being that a pregnant female is going to have weight with carrying a child, even though everything about her at that height with a child in that, you know, whatever trimester she's in, to be completely healthy, because of that excess weight, maybe say she's now in the overweight or obese range. Same thing with trained athletes. You know, if we go back a couple slides, and you look at this, he carries on more muscle mass than any other counterparts probably at his height range. So that muscle mass has excess weight. So he may come in, even though you can see his abs and everything, and his body fairly low. He may come in the overweight or obese range. Again, a lot of, like, if you look at a lot of football players, and especially, I'm not talking about the old line guys, but I'm talking about, you know, like the guys that are really big and jacked. That a lot of them are in the lower levels of obese range based on the BMI. Now, again, why do we use this? One, it's very convenient because all we need from somebody is height and weight. So again, if I needed a sample size of like 30,000 people, you know, I could send out some type of questionnaire across the country and get a response of, hey, how tall are you, how much do you weigh, and I can set the BMI. So one, it's convenient without having to have them go that many people go into labs and actually go get measurements done. And two, you know, being that most people do not have excess muscle mass and things like that, you know, there's a lot of people that do fall into, you know, the ranges that it says. So again, that's why it's still there. It's not so much that it's outdated, it's just we don't have anything that beats that convenience. And again, when you want large numbers of folks to look at things, you know, we've got to go with convenience, because if we wanted to get a snapshot of you know, how many folks are in the overweight and obese ranges across the United States, we can't expect everybody to go to the nearest gym or physiology lab or whatever else to have somebody actually measure it. So calculating BMI, we take weight in kilograms over height in meters. Will give you your BMI. Now, again, if you want to do that, you know, if you don't grams and meters, you can do it in pounds and inches, and you got to multiply it by 73 to get the BMI. Okay. Again, here's a lean athlete who will fall into the obese category. The fact that at his weight is much higher at his height because of the amount of muscle mass that he has. I believe that's Brooks from way back in the day with the Buccaneers. Again, here's a sumo wrestler and a bodybuilder who have similar body composition. Again, the bodybuilder on the right has extreme excessive muscle mass, where the sumo wrestler has extreme excessive body fat. And sumo wrestlers also have a lot of strength as well, so there's a lot of muscle mass underneath there that you won't see. But again, you can see where these two guys could weigh the same, maybe they're even similar height, and so their BMIs should be different based on the differences in body composition. Right? So there's two compartment models. We have fat mass plus fat-free mass. Not all fat-free mass tissues have the same density. The three compartment model looks at four compartment model looks at fat mass, bone mass, fat-free mass, and total body water, which would be the most accurate view of the measurement of more types of tissue. Again, the more that we measure, the more complicated it gets. Okay. So again, this is a 2, 3, and 4 model if you break it down and just looking at, you know, what everything should be. So again, the majority of your body is going to be water. It should be water as long as you're well hydrated. Okay. When you look at this, you know, like when you look at the third one over there, you know, makes up the majority of that. Okay. And again, you know, looking at the 2-part model versus the 3-part and 4-part, you know, most of the time, you know, like if we're looking at those, we're just, you know, a lot of times most people are more interested in what the fat mass is. Okay? But again, bone mass is important as well. So balance beam scales, you know, are fairly common. Anytime you go to the doctor, you use, and this is what you're probably going to use if you're not BMI, right? So when you're estimating body comp, you know, everybody would love to have accuracy, but what's the cost of that? Okay, practicality and affordability, you know, is that, you know, where do you go to get it done, or can you get it at home? You know, those, how much time is it going to take? As well, and subject comfort and effort and technician training. So again, you know, some people don't feel comfortable stripping down almost naked to get their body fat percentage measured. Other people may not feel necessarily as, you know, it may not bother them as much. So again, you know, going and doing the bod pod and getting your swimsuit for some people is a nightmare, where other people it's not a big deal. Okay, and then technicians, you know, when you're doing body comp measurements with the calipers. We actually did an experiment on this when I was in my master's program, where we had to go make a bunch of, we had to go make a bunch of reservations at our wellness center at our college, and we had to make reservations with the different kids that worked in there. And we went at different times, you know, like almost back-to-back times during the day, so that, you know, we could get our body fat measured using calipers. And so again, I went to, you know, like one technician, you know, like I think there's like, when I went, there's like 3 or 4 technicians, and I think there's like 2 or 3 were girls and 2 or 3 guys. So, you know, I made all my appointments within like an hour to an hour and a half of each other with each person. And when I came out with each piece of paper telling me what my body fat percentage was, I had 2 of them that were kind of close to each other, and then I had 2 that were like way off of those 2, right? And, you know, one estimated me really high, one estimated me really low, you know, in comparison or something like that. And then I had 2 that were somewhere in the middle, kind of close. Again, you know, technician training and error can find that, right? So body fat is not measured directly. All methods have inherent error. More to that error, standard error of estimates is what we call the C. So hydrodensitometry or hydrostatic is one that, again, this one's not very common, and it's getting less common these days because of the electronics and ease of electronics. Used to be the most accurate. Now again, with the DEXA scan, you know, the DEXA scans being compared with it, you know, and this is what we used to call the gold standard. You know, I've seen a lot of things now where they're saying, you know, that was a gold standard, but now we're at the platinum standard with the DEXA. So again, the percentage of error is about 2.7% on this one. It's practical if you have enough space for a dunk tank, because you have to have a big water tank that you can completely submerge somebody in. The problem with submerging them is, one, they have to hold their breath. Well, no, they don't hold their breath. Let's take it back, what they're saying on here. They have to submerge themselves. Once they get underwater, they have to let all their air out of their lungs, because the amount of air in the lungs is also going to make them more buoyant. It takes a lot of time to perform because while people are breathing underwater, sitting in a weighted chair that you're measuring the weight, they bounce a little bit. So you kind of got to watch. You got to breathe all that air out, and hopefully it'll stick. You know, you can see that weight stay in a spot long enough that you can get a reading. And again, it's uncomfortable because you're completely submerged and you're trying to get all the air out of your lungs. Technician training is needed, but it's not extremely difficult to, you know, basically they've got to read off of, you know, they've got to know everything you got to measure, and then they've got to read off the list of, you know, like, this is what you can do, this is what you can do, this is what you can do, this is what you can do. Again, you know, to have a big enough dunk tank and all that can be very expensive. The other thing is too is, you know, you've got to have somebody take a swimsuit. You got to measure their swimsuit outside of the dunk tank. They've got to measure themselves outside of the dunk tank. The swimsuit's got to be wet when you measure it, which is the other thing. Then they put it on. They get in the dunk tank. We measure them in the dunk tank. You know, to try to get the most accurate measurement possible. And they'll, you know, you'll probably take 3 measurements underwater at least to try to average that out, hopefully. And again, then you got to run it through a big formula to figure out what their body fat percentage is, because we're using the buoyancy of body fat versus the density of all your fat-free mass to see the difference underwater versus what you completely weigh, you know, outside in the air under gravity, right? And so that's really what it is. It's a weight difference, is what it is. Again, it's not a displacement, as if you've ever read the phlegmometry, or not phlegmometry, the bod pod machine, you know, compares what they do to this, saying that it's a displacement. One's air displacement, one's water displacement. No, actually, hydrostatic weighing is actually a weight differential between how fat-free mass is more dense and holds more and will hold more weight underwater versus fat mass, which is buoyant, is going to try to pull you up. And so basically you're looking at that differential. Again, there's some of the calculations that you'll use, and again, it's a lot more complicated than just that. This is what a small one looks like. I've seen some that are about this size. I've seen some that are bigger, and again, you see the person completely submerged, trying to blow out all their air, and sphygmography. This is this is what I was trying to say earlier. Uses air displacement to measure volume. Okay, so this one's about 2.2 to 3.7%, and actually I've seen some studies that put the BOD pod, which is a very expensive piece of equipment. You can probably purchase them anywhere from some used ones for about 30 grand, up near like $80,000 for brand new ones. And they're about as accurate as calipers. There's some research out there that puts them at the same accuracy as calipers, which again, for the amount of money you're going to spend to get one, doesn't make much sense to me. Again, practical space is available, and you got the Mula. Takes about 5 minutes. Subjects may be uncomfortable being clothed and also being in a bathing suit. Not a lot of technical training. The machine kind of runs itself. The only thing you need to be trained on is how to calibrate the machine in between each time you do it. Again, very expensive for that amount of air, right? It's not one of my favorites. The other, a lot of things have to be taken into consideration when somebody comes into the machine. Again, if they've been working out, the more heat that their body produces is going to set that thing off. Again, different amounts of metals and things that can be in their body can set that machine. They're very, they can be very finicky in some regards. So again, for the amount of money you use to have one, not one of my favorite things to have if you're actually going to have it in a commercial gym and measure people's body comp. Now in the lab, it's a lot of fun to have because you can see the difference between using it versus other methods, right? So this is what a BOD pod looks like. Skinfold, about 3.5%. And again, if you go back here, up to 3.7, so that's about what they're saying. Practical if private areas available, which most places you can find a little small space where nobody's going to see you pinch anybody. And you're going to take measurements. If you do the 7 site, you're going to be taking a measurement off the chest, triceps, off the back, of the mid-axilla, off stomach region. There's different sites that you'll take, and also off the thighs. So again, they've got to be closed where you can reach all those different areas and have skin-to-skin contact and pinching. A lot of times people don't like to pinching their fat. Technician training and skill is very critical in this, and again, this is why this one can have a 3.5% error. Folks that have done this over and over and over again have been well trained, can do this very well with not near as much percentage of error. But again, there's a lot of personal trainers that have been trained to do this because this is probably the most common method. So it really varies widely, as again with the expertise and the ability of personal trainers. There's probably more personal trainers out there that have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And then this is part of what they don't know what they're doing, right? So we've got definitely an area of our field that we need to tighten up and have stricter, we need to have some stricter protocols with what we allow people to have to be personal trainers. Then I believe everybody needs to at least have a bachelor's degree, and I would like to see licensure. I'm just going to turn that in there. I know that's not really part of this chapter, but I think that would tighten things up. Bioelectrical impedance analysis, again, has the error percent about the same. Based on electrical current conductivity, takes about 5 minutes. Pre-measurement guidelines require substantial compliance. Again, can't work out before you do it. You want to be well hydrated, so on and so forth. Again, if you don't meet those, it's it off where the percentage of error is high. Again, technician training is minimal. Most of the machines, are very easy to work. Again, they can be moderately expensive. There's some that are like 20, 30 bucks. There's some that are 100 and something. There's several hundred. And again, the ones that are more expensive to do the full body bioelectrical are more accurate than the little handheld ones. So again, you're going to pay for some of the accuracy on that. Okay. So again, this one measures using hands. You can see she's got the little handheld parts as well as it usually has little foot pads as well. So again, just really depends on the machine and the manufacturer. Near infrared can be anywhere from 4 to 5% off. Again, it's based on absorption, reflection of light, practical, easy, takes procedure, minimal technician training. Problem is those little infrared things can be expensive, one, and they only measure, the ones that I've seen, they always measure on the full body. It makes a lot of estimated guesses based on the amount of fat that is reflected in the bicep area. So not one of my favorite ones. Okay. Then we've got the DEXA, the dual X-ray absorption. I can't say that. Anyway, it's got a 1.8%. So this one is the best one so far. Again, at the time, it says much more research is needed. Lots of research has been done on these, and every time I've seen them come up, they're getting better and better. Practical in some facilities, easy to use. I actually have, up at Nova, I've got to go to their lab a lot and use theirs, and it's really interesting to use. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes, simple procedure. Subject is exposed to small amounts of radiation, but nothing that is dangerous. Again, technician training, licensure is needed. They actually have to have like a radiology type certification to be able to run it. They are very expensive to purchase, but they're really cool machines. And again, in college settings, I think it's really neat to have this. They have a whole body comp lab where you get to bring subjects in and see how they kind of stack up against all of them. It's a really neat machine to use. And very, very accurate. Now again, this one, this is what I was telling you guys about earlier. So all the other ones, you may have, like, you could pinch somebody, you could do the bioelectrical impedance, you could bod pod them, and you may have somebody that comes in and all three of those are around like 7 to 8%. That person that's 7 to 8%, you put them on the DEXA, they may be like 17 or 18%. And again, because the DEXA finds all that fat that and the other ones are guesstimating, like, okay, it's guesstimating that, like, based on your sub-Q fat, probably this is all you got, and so on and so forth. The DEXA actually sees all of it, right? So when it does it, so again, you will have higher percentages on the DEXA, more than likely. It is more accurate and it finds everything. So I always tell people, like, like when they're like, oh yeah, I'm like 7% body fat, I'm like, don't go do the DEXA because it's going to ruin you. Okay? And that's pretty much what most of them look like. The one that I've got to use is different than this, but very similar. CT scans and MRIs can also imaging techniques. There's no established C. Apparently, I don't know why you'd want to go use those. They're very expensive, and then you have to have technicians with, that work in hospitals, basically, and licensed to do them. Again, they'd be very expensive, and again, kind of almost a misappropriation of CT and MRIs, just to figure out body fat percentage. Again, could be practical, I guess. Like if you happen to have them because you're at a hospital and you wanted to, like, you're checking for something else, and you're like, all right, let's kind of check out what this is too. I guess maybe, but again, I've never seen them in fitness clinical settings and nutrition clinical settings. They're more useful in hospital healthcare settings. So how do we interpret the results? All right, so we have ranges to interpret results. Okay. Again, we can use we can use those ranges to figure out, like, are you in an athletic range, or are you in just range for being an adult, a kid, whatever else? Are you, in an overweight range? Are you like low obesity, middle obesity, like super high obesity? Like what's your risk percentage for, major diseases and things as well? Interpreting body weight is most useful for tracking hydration status. Necessary to measure if weight must be certified, like for different things, like for your healthcare, for, got to weigh in for your sports and things like that, like they're in engineering and stuff like that. But most athletes don't need to measure their weight. The weight's not important for, like, unless you're in a fighting sport where you have to be at a certain weight. If you don't have to be at a certain weight for your sport, the weight is not what we need to focus on. Okay. Now your coaches may want to focus on it for making sure that, like you're replacing fluids, you're not getting dehydrated, but that's really about it. Okay. So again, if your body weight goes down, it might be that you lost body fat, which yay for most people, right? But you could have also lost muscle mass, okay? Like due to starvation or you're overtraining for your sport or whatever else. Your diet's too restrictive, and you can also lose water. So again, when you look at it and you're like, hey, I lost 5 pounds. Well, what was the 5 pounds, right? And again, if your goal is body fat percentage, weight's not going to be the most accurate way to figure out if you're losing that. Okay. So relationship of body comp to performance. Some sports, excess body fat is dead weight, so you're just hauling it around. You don't need it. It's not helping you. It's slowing you down. In other sports, it either plays a minor role, or again, like we said, in like sumo wrestlers, it plays an important role in their ability to compete in that sport. And again, if you look at O-linemen, there's a certain amount of what you'd call, I guess, dead weight that helps them to be harder to move around. They've got to balance that with, like keeping excess body weight, but also being able to be fast and mobile with that excess body weight. And there's, again, it's a very kind of tough way. You gotta figure out how to be as heavy as you can and as mobile as you can at the same time. All right. So again, body comp of different athletes in the same sport. So we've got Derek Jeter here, who's got, very healthy body comp. We don't have another picture. And like I said, if you look at him versus maybe like Bartolo Colon, who's also, played about the same time as him. Bartolo had a much different body composition, much higher amount of body fat. Physical characteristics associated with sports performance, factors that may impact weight and body comp goals, sport, the position played, size requirements, height and weight. Sometimes being tall is helpful in some sports, sometimes being short, sometimes being more muscular, being more light, just depends relatively to power and endurance. Weight certification, like if you're in MMA, and again, body appearance can play into it. So again, if you're a bodybuilder, and that's your sport, you're completely judged on your appearance, right? In sports where explosive power provides a competitive advantage, having a high power to weight ratio would be important. So, high jump, you don't want to have to push excess weight that you don't want to push. But again, at the same time, you've got to have enough muscle mass to be explosive to jump. So again, you've got to have that right balance. Okay? So again, this is giving estimated body percentage body fat for athletes in selected sports. And I will say, for the most part of this slide, I don't agree, because again, they don't take in all consideration, right? So you look at collegiate and professional baseball. There's some professional baseball players for sure that, like I told you, you look at David Wells, you look at Bartolo Colon, there's a guy, Bob Banks, that used to be a closing pitcher. These guys are all guys that carried much more than 12% body fat that were highly effective in their sport, right? Again, in baseball, there's all kinds of different positions, right? And they really need to look at, that for one. Again, you got some guys like John Kruk that actually played infield as a first baseman who carried excess body fat and still, was very effective. We've all seen pictures of Babe Ruth. He's not a slim man, but one of the greatest baseball players that ever played the sport. Okay, basketball. They're looking at centers, forwards, and guards. Again, centers. I mean, that's a big range, 9 to 20%, right? 7 to 14%. You basically doubled it. 7 to 13%. It's really going to be dependent on the player. Okay. Cycling, long distance cycling, yeah, they're going to have a smaller range. That makes sense. Again, football, they're looking at NCAA Division I here. Yeah, these guys are all going to have much different ranges, right? Between defensive back receivers, quarterbacks, linebackers, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, right? Yeah, and again, you can be one, like outside of those ranges sometimes and still be very effective in different positions. Okay. And so again, not one of my favorite slides on here. Some of these are kind of right on or pretty close to them. Some of these I feel a bit off, right? Again, many athletes' bodies are judged by the large audiences reached through visual media. So again, each so again, you may not feel really comfortable playing in a swimsuit if your body composition, if you have a higher body fat percentage, that may play into your comfortability being in your sport and being in your athletic gear, so to speak, for those sports as well. So, and again, people will, unfortunately, they're going to judge you even if you're at the top of your game. They're going to be like, oh wow, she's out of shape, or he's out of shape, or whatever else, So, that does play into things. It definitely, I can see that in professional sports where you're trying to build a brand or image or whatever else, that can play into getting sponsorship or not. So, target body weight based on desired body comp. Um, you know, for major athletes, they can spend the money and go get good estimations. They can go to places where they'll fix a standard. I know, lab up at Nova. If any major athletes go in there, they're probably going to scan them because it's kind of cool to have them come in and actually see what they're at. It's as a researcher, if we have the equipment, we love to see what elite athletes are at. So a lot of times you probably call places that have things like DEXAs and stuff, and they'll probably get you in. Okay. Genetic predispositions and requirements of sports play into that. Realistic goals achievable through diet and training. Attaining or maintaining goals does not put the athlete's health at risk. Again, we don't want somebody that's like, oh yeah, I want to look this way, but it's going to be detrimental to their performance. Or again, they want to look this way, and you're like, okay, that's not healthy. To look that way, right? Like you may want to look that way, but it's not going to be healthy for you to get down to that weight or get up to that weight, either way. And so figuring out target body weight formulas, to look at other athletes about their height in their sports, what they're doing in the same positions and so on and so forth. So you got target body weight is going to be current fat-free mass, 1 minus desired. And, I don't really find this formula useful because, again, we've got to look at the athlete and change things based on how training them, because again, as you get their body fat percentage to a certain degree and you get the muscle mass, you may start to see their ability slide north or south. And so if they're getting better, great, we keep moving that direction. If things start to go south, we've got to readjust. Maybe this isn't what they need there. Again, you guys, this book uses this formula. These are not things that I would use when working with athletes. I don't find it helpful or useful. So increasing your muscle mass, so role of exercise. So periodized strength training. So again, you have hypertrophy phase. Usually in this phase, we're trying to put on more muscle mass. Therefore, you might see their weight increase. Um, again, their weight may not or may stay the same because at the same time that, if they were taking off and they would put on some excess body fat, now that they're training, their body fat may be going down because they're expending more energy, but at the same time, they're trying to mass up. So you may actually see it stay here, even though the composition of their body might change. Right? Again, you want to make sure that they have sufficient energy intake during this time because the goal here is to put on muscle mass. And so we're trying to beef up the muscles, so to speak. Okay, so again, if somebody was maintaining before, an additional 400, 500 kilocalories should take care of that. And eating excess protein as well in their diet should help with the rebuilding of the muscles and the hormones and enzymes and everything else needed during the training period, right? Again, it's not look at these. Again, if you need them for a job at some point, always keep these slides, but I've never used those. Then we'll skip through this. So decreasing body fat percentage, you got to have a caloric deficit. It's the only way, right? The only way we lose body fat is if our calories in are below our calories out. That's it, right? So we got to either decrease the food intake, increase energy expenditure, or a combination of both, right? So again, it really depends on the person because you may have an athlete that's training. They really can't do more energy-wise. So we've got to look at their diet. You may have somebody that, they're very strict on their diet. Getting more strict might not be beneficial or, detrimental. They just don't expend a lot. So we could have them exercise more. Most people in general, we could probably fudge a little bit on both things, right? Where it's like, all right, let's work a little bit and tighten up the diet a bit. We also need to get you more active. And in general, most people just are not active. Even people that I know that, oh yeah, I'm active, and I ask them what they do. Like, not really that active, right? And so again, a lot of folks can really up their energy expenditure and their effort, okay? And again, when I say these things, I'm not saying like, I want somebody that's watching this that is not in my field. It's like, man, he's hard. To have somebody who never worked out before go like just kill themselves in a class. No. I'm not saying that. I honestly believe in both things when it comes to nutrition and energy expenditure. So like building a foundation of exercise, building a foundation of good nutritional practices. It takes where the person's at, and it needs to be a slow increase. And again, I'm not dogmatic of how people exercise. I'm not one of those gym rats. It's like, oh yeah, you gotta go lift weights, you gotta go do cardio. I mean, I'm all for all kinds of different things. I just, and whatever makes you happy too, like if you can find a sport that you just love and it makes you happy, if you're outside, surfing or whatever else, like I love to surf. I think it's fun. And it also makes me dog tired. If I had to, if I lived a little bit closer to the ocean than I do, and by that I was also closer a little bit northern in Florida where there's better waves and I could get over there every day, and that'd be something I'd incorporate into kind of my energy expenditure because I just love it. And again, when I'm doing it, I don't feel like I'm working out. Although when I'm done, I'm tired. It's just, so again, I'm not dogmatic in that. I just feel that people do need to increase their energy expenditure. And again, it can be fun. It doesn't have to be like going to a workout class or running distance or lifting, okay? Again, exercise can be used to create moderate caloric deficits in people, helps maintain minimalized loss of lean body mass because when the muscles are exercising, they want to rebuild, okay? Some athletes may not be able to increase their exercise substantially due to the fact that they're training so much now and we don't want them to overtrain and get injured. So again, we got to work on more of the diet with them. Again, we don't want to restrict anybody's diet too much, and especially with athletes. You don't want to do that because you're going to see a huge chunk of their performance get decreased when you really food-wise, right? So again, we don't, with most athletes, you know, we want to look at what they're eating and see where we can make little changes here and there until we get them to that um, lower deficit. Again, protein is one that we don't really need to mess with lowering, because for the most part, especially in a very active athlete, and that's going to, you know, rebuilding muscle and enzymes and immune system and their hormones and so on and so forth. Okay, so again, you know, we, we want to keep the protein intake high if we can, and maybe lower the amount of, you know, hopefully maybe they're just eating too much dietary fats. You know, we'll start there and try to cut some of that down. And then, well, if that's not enough, then we'll start looking at their carbohydrate intake as well. Okay, and again, loss of body fat will be slow. We're not trying to get folks down quickly unless they're in one of those sports where they have to weigh in. That's a whole different animal we're not talking about. Again, we'd like to increase muscle mass when we decrease body fat. And it's very difficult to do because you gotta almost be like sort of this balance where it's like you're just below the deficit, so you're losing some enough protein. You know, you can't lower too much, because if you do that, then yes, you'll start to lose some muscle mass as well. And again, you know, if you're too high, you're not going to see the body fat percentage. So it's a hard thing to do both at the same time. Where it's not as difficult is when you're working with somebody who's completely out of shape, because again, they're going to have major changes that they can make on both ends, where the body's like, you know, you have somebody that's got a lot of excess body fat and they're theoretically very weak, not a lot of muscle mass. And as soon as you get them working out and expending more, and say you've got them on a calorie deficit, yeah, they're going to see some muscle changes because their body's now doing it, right? And their body fat's going to come down. With highly trained athletes, it's really more likely, you know, some small fine-tuning things you got to do. Okay? Seasonal time, course of body comp changes. Small losses in body fat may be consequence of return to training. Large losses are not usually complex with return to training. Again, best time to lose body fat is usually in the off season or early part of preseason, because the rest of the time we're worried about performance and strength and power and all that. Crash diets, they say may be employed to lose large amounts of body fat in short periods of time. I'm not for those. Now, again, if you talk to Dr. Peacock, who works with fighters and stuff, they have ways, and again, I don't think what he does or what he says he does, he would even consider the same thing as a crash diet. But they have a very scientific way to make you lose weight quickly, and in a way that's not super detrimental to your performance, and also a way to bring your weights back up after your weigh-ins. That, you know, he's worked with for a long time, and he's got folks that he works with and does those things, so that one, it's not detrimental to your you know, again, any type of quick losses, you're gonna have some detriments to that hydration and your health a bit, but they have a way of doing it where it doesn't kick you in those realms that much, and then they can also get your weight back, you know, in a short period of time in a healthy way too. So again, not really my area of expertise. I've listened to him do some presentations on it. It's fascinating. And in certain sports, it's a necessity. Okay? And increases in lean body mass. In untrained individuals, initial gains can be huge because the body's got a lot of room to grow, right? And trained athletes, they're usually slower because, again, we all have this potential ceiling that we have. Folks that don't take good care of themselves are very far from that ceiling, so they've got a lot of ground to make up, and the body will, you know, initially make up some big ground. Those folks that are here, the work to get to the top is a lot of work for a little gain. Okay? As you get closer to where your body's at its max potential, it's harder. Okay. And in trained athletes, gains are usually slow, and women experience 50 to 70% of the gains seen in men. So again, don't misinterpret that to say that, you know, women don't get gains. They do, and they're pretty much, they're similar. It's just the difference in hormones. Men tend to be bigger and things like that. that's why you see the percentage difference, but we train the same and our bodies react the same. Okay, so if you're in a caloric deficit, male or female, in your training, you'll see body fat go down. If you are lifting for strength, both men and women will get stronger in the lifts they do. We work in the same directions, it's just the percentage of muscle gain or the percentage of strength gain and stuff. You know, like you take a guy and a girl that are like, you know, say you take twins, you know, and they start doing the exact same things, you're going to see them both moving in this direction. You're just going to see the guys start to have a little bit, you know, greater increases in that. You know, that's really what that's saying. Some people misinterpret that, you know, where they're like, oh yeah, women need to train differently or something like that, or, you know, they shouldn't lift heavy weights. Or no, that is not what that's saying. And if a girl wants to get big and strong, girl can get big and strong, and, you know, it's just going to be at a different rate than what the guys do. Okay. So lightweight sports pushing the biological envelope. Goal is low body weight with sufficient muscularity. Again, you got to be very careful with this because, again, when you're trying to make weight and stuff like that, you don't want to like do stuff that's detrimental to your health, especially when you got to fight the next day, you know, or else, you know, if you do things too extreme too quickly and you don't feel good, you won't perform good. And there really is, you got to have folks that are really good in the science of doing that so that you can do that correctly and feel good by the time fight time comes, right? And so some of the things people do is they'll semi-starve themselves, they'll dehydrate and do some excessive exercise to get the weight down. And again, yeah, that's what you kind of have to do, unfortunately, in those sports because of the way that those sports do that. But there's better ways of doing that than others, okay? Then body comp as well as athleticism is important for cheerleading. Again, you know, cheerleaders got to be very, you know, they got to be very strong, very flexible. Again, you know, a lot of them are like semi like gymnasts with the things that they're able to do. And again, with that the amount of training that's involved in the abilities in that, you know, if their body comp is off, it's going to impair their ability to do a lot of those things. As well as the fact that when you work in a team, you know, some of you are throwing people, some of you are the people being thrown. So if your body comp, you know, if you're the person being thrown, that's going to affect the folks that got to toss you up, right? Again, I don't like using these calculators. It's more important to me just to work with them individualized, get them where they feel good and they're performing good, and we just leave it alone, okay? Weight cycling and athlete, this is repeated weight loss and gain. Again, some sports cultures, it is what it is. You know, when you're looking at fighting sports, this is just how it goes. Again, some other sports, you don't really necessarily need to do it as much. Again, I've seen some bodybuilders that really don't fluctuate their weight as much as others. So you'll see some guys and girls that during, they'll have bulking season, they have a lot of excess body fat. I've seen a lot of guys and girls now that basically, you know, during bulking, they'll up their intake a little bit. So they may put on just a little bit of body fat because they're really trying to bulk up some of the muscles too. So they want to make sure that they're, you know, they're able to do that, but they don't go too crazy where you got other ones that basically it's like a free fall in what they eat, right? But then again, they've got to go through this big swing of really cutting everything out so they can do this. But again, when they lose that body fat, they may lose some excess muscle mass they didn't want to. Where now I've seen some folks that like they just did a little bit of body fat while they're trying to gain some muscle mass, and when they're slightly lower, they don't lose as much muscle mass either. So, you know, and again, for their body, because they're staying in a nice healthy range, it has less effects on them in the long run with health stuff, okay? Again, when you do repeated weight loss, weight gain, may be part of sports culture, and athletes may believe that weight cycling is necessary. Again, studies have found that short-term high-intensity exercise is not impaired. Expected performance improvements didn't occur. RMR is not decreased. Negative mental changes, anger, tension, fatigue. Medical consequences, hypohydration and hyperthermia, which can potentially fatal, can happen. Headaches, nosebleeds, racing heart, possible predisposition to obesity later in life because you don't create good eating, exercising habits. Okay? So again, I'm going to skip this because these are not experts in this, and I would really suggest you look at stuff that's out there by Dr. Peacock when it comes to like talking about amateur boxers weight gain in underweight athletes. Again, 500 kilocalories a day should help you see some slow weight gain in that. Again, as much as it's difficult for people to lose weight, it can be difficult for some people to gain weight. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Muscle building supplements, prescription drugs similar to testosterone. Self-prescription is illegal. Most sports governing and right now there's all this like hormone health and stuff, and they've got men over 40, you can go to your doc and they'll prescribe testosterone if you have low T and all this. Again, in sports, that stuff is illegal. Okay, and you've got to understand that anabolic steroids are illegal. Again, are you going to see positive effects in sports performance based on, it's not even really the performance. What it is you get bigger, stronger, and again, as long as your skill set's high enough, you may see, some better performance. But again, it's illegal, and again, it does come with some risks. Okay, mild, moderate, and substantial medical risks that can come along with anabolic steroids: increased blood pressure, low density lipoproteins, reduced testicular size. You can see it's called gynomastoidism or something like that, where you get like female-looking breast tissue in males, accelerated baldness in both males and females, and masculinization effects in females. Again, you can tell a lot of girls that have taken anabolic steroids because you'll see a lot of the masculinization in their face and things. And again, oh no, I'm all natural. It's like, I mean, lifting weights does not change to where you look like a guy. I mean, there's a lot of girls I've seen out there that are bodybuilders, very strong, very muscular, but you don't see their face change to where they look more masculinized. And then you can tell those that are on it and those that are not. Okay, so you're not fooling anybody. I'm just going to throw that out there now. Those of you that do take anabolic steroids, and again, it's very easy to detect in guys who have taken anabolic steroids as well. I probably everybody that that I've ever met that are in sports like bodybuilding, I can tell you which one y'all have been on it, and I can tell which ones haven't. And even though I'll ask some folks, like, yeah, no, never done a really natural. Most of them, from what I've seen, most people tend to be lying. And it's run rampant in a lot of sports. It's actually been a huge increase in sports like CrossFit as well. And again, you can tell the guys and girls that have been taking it or have taken it at times during CrossFit as well. And again, it's a huge thing in that particular sport. And again, I've had people ask, well, how come the sports haven't, really put a big kibosh on those things? And one of the reasons they haven't is because, especially in bodybuilding, the excessive size and nature of things is why people like to watch those sports. Okay. You can take precursor hormones as well. Again, they are banned and illegal. DHEA is a weak anabolic steroid that you can actually get over the counter at like some health places. Again, weak anabolic steroid has a general effect on tissue, not a specific effect on skin. I've noticed the guys that took it, and it was kind of one of those 50-50. Some guys are like, oh yeah, I really feel it, and some other, I don't feel a thing. So with that, I can't really tell you that it works from a research standpoint. It's one of those where it's like same thing. statistically, no, it does not work. It doesn't make a difference. And some people, they feel like it does. Again, it could be a placebo effect. Okay. Again, this just shows you testosterone synthesis, you know, and how it's made and everything. Again, this is where we get the IDA. So if you look over to the right, you know, you know, in your body have it. If somehow you could supplement it in and it works, then you get it'll help convert with progesterone, the androstenedione. Then you create your testosterone. And again, you can, you'll see folks take steroids that are supposed to mimic testosterone or dihydrotestosterone and estradiol, and there's all kinds of other ones too. You can take aldosterone. Again, you're really playing with your health when you do those things. Okay. Ephedrine, alkaloids, and ephedrine. Again, they're marketed for weight loss. Now, ephedra is now banned. It's illegal to use in the United States. I don't know if it is in other countries. We have it banned here because people that abuse it are increasing the heart rate too much, and you have folks that would take it, and they would have cardiac issues, and some people died. So again, can't take them. Here again, they're controversial. Small number of serious events have been reported. Proper dose is subject to debate. Banned by most sports, and again, it's completely banned in the United States. So again, you used to be able to take, over-the-counter weight loss supplements like Hydroxycut used to have it. I'm trying to think. There used to be one I remember some guys used to have called Yellow Jackets. Ripped Fuel, I believe, used to have ephedra in it, and so on and so forth. And none of those have those in that anymore. Okay. So again, an obese individual, short-term 8 to 9 pound weight loss was seen with ephedrine. It's stimulatory and it masks fatigue. Bitter orange may be used in ephedra-free supplements. Again, bitter orange has some side effects for people as well. And delays time to exhaustion, performance benefit, perceived exertion. Again, it's an illegal drug to use in sports. Okay. Again, I don't know that there are any ephedrine containing supplements out there anymore. I think they've been pretty good about taking that stuff. I don't even know if you can get stuff with Mothwong anymore. CLA, marketed for fat burning, inconsistent results in human studies. Safety has not been established. And, again, when you see stuff that doesn't really work and is expensive as those things can be, it's not probably worth taking. Okay. So, CLA is not something that is really well known to have real good results. Some people swear by it again. I get that, that happens a lot, but so again, we've talked about caffeine. Again, caffeine's fine, and most people don't get too much of it. In certain amounts, it can be illegal. Bitter orange or citrus aurantium, effectiveness, it can affect your central nervous system. It may mask, it can mask fatigue, accompanying dietary restrictions.
So the only other item that you're going to have to
contains synephrine, a drug, and other stimulatory compounds. There have been some safety concerns. I've read some things where they looked at bitter orange, and it may have some safety issues with it. Again, I'll have to. I haven't really looked at the bitter orange part since last year when I talked this. I know we were researching a bit. Somebody had a question about it, so I'll have to look at it again if you have questions on it. Again, CLA effectiveness is not known, and it's really useful to not address anything. DHEA, they put is not safe, and again, it's not effective. Like I said, it's some people swear by it, some people don't feel it anything. And ephedrine, it is banned, so don't even worry about that one. If you get your hands on it, you know, I guess that's up to you. It's like getting, getting your hands on anabolic steroids. I guess it's a banned substance and it's illegal. Whether you're an athlete or not, you can't dose it as a weight loss thing. Green tea extract. Some people may report liver toxicity, I guess, and says it's effective for small loss of body weight. Again, most things I've seen with it don't show that it really does that much. All right, so again, there's not really, when it comes to weight loss supplements, there's not really anything out there as a supplement that works. It's really anecdotal at this point. Some people swear by things, but again, sometimes when you spend money on something and you're taking it, you put more effort in. Okay, so again, like what happens with that is if I have a client that's like, I've been taking this, and I look at them like, well, there's nothing really in here that's going to do anything. But you're like, I feel like look, as long as there's nothing in here that's going to cause you any health concerns, go for it. And they'll be like, yeah, but so it really works. I'm like, if it works for you, maybe maybe it's placebo. Maybe there's somehow your body reacts a little bit different than some other folks, but that's up to you. I'm not, and again, I'm not going to recommend it to them, but I won't tell them to stop either if they're seeing results and it's not causing health issues, because again, as soon as they stop taking it, they may psychologically feel like, oh, I'm sluggish, and they don't put in the effort too. So again, I won't recommend those things. All measurement methods have inherent errors, and again, like the DEX is the one that has the least amount, so you don't worry as much on that one. And again, they're all estimations. Results must be interpreted and applied carefully. Realistic goals need to be set. That's always the big thing, setting realistic goals for people. Attaining, maintaining body comp changes takes time and effort. And the optimal body comp or weight for excellent performance is not known because everybody's different. And so some folks need to carry a little excess body fat versus some others, like they just feel better at that, where other folks feel better when they're lighter. And so how your body feels, and like sometimes if you put on too much muscle mass, some people, it can be harder on their joints versus other people. They need excess muscle mass to protect their joints. Okay. So that's it for this chapter. Again, this one was a longer chapter. It's got a lot of information. Again, if you have questions, please email me, let me know. I'll try to help you out with that. Again, there's, the things I gather from this is there's not really a specific size when it comes to body fat percentages of like success. And so everybody you work with, it's going to be different. Again, people at different body comps can even look slightly different than other people at the same body comp. So just be aware of that and understand when you're trying to help your clients out that, what you've done for one person is going to be different than what you're going to do with them for them to be successful. Okay.